Share the screen.
We cannot hear.
Sorry, Dr. Khalil?
We cannot hear Dr. Anas.
Okay. Hold on, it's weird because I have the volume on highest.
You have to share the audio.
The audio, okay. Okay. Share. All right.
Of Engineering and Project Management at ADU. Dr. Rahi serves as the program
All right.
Welcome to our new seminar series at the Dubai campus. I am Dr. Anas Najdawi, Director of Abu Dhabi University's Dubai campus. It is a great pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Dr. Khalil Rahi, an Associate Professor of Engineering and Project Management at ADU. Dr. Rahi serves as the Program Coordinator for our Master of Engineering Management and Master of Project Management programs. He earned his PhD in Industrial Engineering, focusing on IT Project Management and Resilience from Polytechnique, Montreal. He also holds an MBA in IT Management from Laval University, bringing a strong business perspective to his engineering expertise. With over 18 years of global experience across Canada and the Middle East, his expertise is truly international. Dr. Rahi's unique expertise bridges the gap between academic theory and the realities of industrial practice. His research focuses on organizational resilience, digital transformation, and effective stakeholder engagement. He is also deeply involved in the integration of artificial intelligence within diverse and complex industrial settings. He has published extensively in prestigious Scopus Index journals, including the Project Management Journal. His contributions also reached the International Journal of Information Systems and Project Management. Before transitioning to academia, Dr. Rahi spent over a decade in senior leadership roles within the private sector. This includes serving as an innovation team leader and senior IT implementation manager at Eaton Corporation, ADP, and Ceridian. In these roles, he successfully led large-scale cloud migration projects and diverse cross-functional teams in Canada. He is a certified project management professional and a fellow of the Higher Education Academy. Additionally, he is a certified emotional intelligence life coach, emphasizing the human element in management. His ongoing work explores how emerging technologies and dynamic capabilities foster innovation across diverse industries. It is truly an honor to have him with us. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Khalil Rahi.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well and safe. Can you hear me well? First of all, just is my sound clear? Everything's good? Can you see me well? Can you see my screen? All is good? Great. Perfect.
Yes,
So,
doctor, you're loud and clear.
excellent. Thank you. So first of all, thank you, Dr. Anas, or I would say the avatar of Dr. Anas for that kind introduction. I also want to extend a sincere thank you to Dima and Muhammad for the incredible work they put into organizing this event and bringing us all together today. So basically, we are here to talk about the factors that actually determines whether your project succeeds or fails. And to start, it is very important to mention that this particular presentation is based on the framework established in the best-selling book, which is Emotional Intelligence 2.0, that is written by Travis Bradbury and John Gravis. So what I have done for you today is that I have taken the raw intelligence and the strategies from this particular book, and I have projected them directly into the reality of your job, which is project management. What's also very important to mention that all these strategies I'm going to talk about in today's webinar can be applied in your day-to-day job, so at your organization or even with your friends and family as well. So we are going to look at all the concepts through the lens of the project manager, someone who has to influence people they do not manage and hit deadlines that in many cases they are impossible and they have to as well navigate the politics of high stress environments. So we're going to take the theory of EQ. By the way, EQ refers to emotional quotient, and turning it into tactical engine for project management. Sorry. So to start, there is something very important for today's lecture. I need you please all to log in to an application called the ClassPoint. It's very simple. All you have to do is just go to any browser, any URL, or even on your phone, go into https://classpoint.app, enter the class code that you see here on the screen, which is the 18348, this class code here, and click join. So I'm going to just give you a couple of minutes so you guys can log in, and then we're going to start the webinar. Okay, so let me start just by asking you this particular very important question. What is the most important driver of project failure? I'm gonna start the word clouds and you guys can see the information there. So please go ahead and log your answer. It's very straightforward on the app. We're gonna discuss it later.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Khalil, but what
Yes,
was
Dean.
the code again? Some people are asking because they just joined.
18348. It's just here, the class code. On the app, on the upper right of the screen, you can see class code 18348. I'm gonna just write it down.
Yes, I just wrote it down for everybody.
Thank you. 2 more minutes. Take your time, write down everything you guys can think of. What is the most important driver of project failure when it comes to project management? Excellent points. Five seconds. Okay. So that's really amazing. So you guys nailed it. So talking about poor communication, we don't have a clear objective, miscommunication, poor safety, no clear objective. All these elements can lead to project failure. And yes, these are the among the most important drivers of project failure. Of course, we do have the technical side that most of you didn't focus on because basically because of this particular webinar, we are mainly focused on the human part of project management. But yes, we also have other things related to unclear scope or scope creeps or all the other elements that you guys have been working with so far as project managers. Thank you so much for your participation. It's very interesting answers. So to continue, I'm pretty sure that many of you have delivered a perfect project. Okay, you have delivered your project on time, you have respected the budget, you have achieved 100% of the scope. However, I'm also very confident that in most of these projects, despite all the green lights on your dashboard, the stakeholders were quietly unhappy and the team was completely burned out by the end of this particular project. This is what I call the hidden failure. Yes, of course, on paper, when it comes to your dashboard, when it comes to the report that you will share with key stakeholders, on paper, you succeeded. Everything looks beautiful, but your status report is also green. But in the hallway, it is a disaster. Why? Because we have been lied to as project manager. We are taught that if we control the time, if we control the cost, if we control the scope, success is guaranteed. But that is a mechanical view of the word. The reality is that projects are chaotic. Projects are human-centric endeavors. And the algorithm is very simple, but we get it wrong every day. We spend most of our time as a project manager, even though you guys mentioned that poor communication and the ethics, and you talked about all these elements which are extremely important. But basically, when it comes to project management, we spend 90% of our time managing the project, managing the spreadsheet, managing the deadline, going into meetings, going into managing the risk, working even on MS projects to make it perfect. But to actually succeed, we must start leading the people. And as I always say to my students, even if you are the most capable project manager who knows the best tools, the best techniques, who mastered MS project or all the applications related to project management, if you do not know how to communicate with people, if you do not know how to lead people, if you do not know how to pass the right message in the right way, if you do not know how to read the room, you will fail as a project manager, and eventually your project will fail. Right? So To continue with this, let's talk a little bit about your CVs as project managers. I'm guessing that some of you have the PMP or you have the Prince 2, or maybe you are into Agile and you have the Scrum Master certification. So as project manager, we spend most of our lives mastering the technical specs of the job. We obsess over the critical path. We need to manage all the critical activities. We work hard on respecting the Gantt chart. But if technical skills is all it takes, why do projects still fail, right? Why do projects still burn? So here is the uncomfortable truth. According to the PMI, Project Management Institute, the primary drivers of project failure are not the bad scheduling or the incorrect budgeting. They are, as you guys mentioned, poor communication and ineffective stakeholders management. Okay, so think about that. The very thing that kills our projects are the things we spend the least amount of time training for. So we treat communication like it's just we are sending emails or going into meetings. But poor communication usually means failing to read the room. So we treat stakeholders management like it is just a list of names. But ineffective stakeholders management actually means failing to navigate the emotional landscape of people. And this is basically the human skills gap. So in other words, we are technically overqualified and we are emotionally underprepared. So success isn't just about the schedule or the budget or respecting the scope. It is more about the psychology of the people on this particular schedule or on the people involved in working on the scope or working on the budget. And again, this is what we call the human skills gap. Now, what is emotional intelligence? Okay. We define emotional intelligence very simply. It is the ability to recognize emotions in yourself and others. And this is the key part, using that awareness to manage your behavior and influence relationships. So I really love this quote, like the last one here, the technical skills, this one here, because it really hurts. The technical skills get a project started. Okay. However, EQ gets the project adopted. In other words, your PMP certification, your skills, whatever you have as technicality from a project management perspective, will get you the meeting. However, your EQ determines if you leave that meeting with a budget approval or with a rejection. So as of today, I want you to completely delete this particular phrase from your vocabulary. Stop calling this soft skills. There is nothing soft about navigating a political minefield in a hostile with a hostile stakeholder. This is purely survival mechanism. Okay, so we have to focus on building our awareness and building understanding others' behavior as well. And this is what we will talk about in today's webinar. Okay, now I want you to look at this particular model. We have two different parts. The first part, the highest part, is the personal competence. This is your internal game. It is entirely about you and your ability to control yourself or your own self. The second part, the lower part, is social competence. This is your external game. It's about how you handle everyone else. And here is the trick. You cannot win the external game if you are losing the internal one. Okay, so let's break down these two main parts into their respective dimensions. The first one is the self-awareness. This is the data feed. This is your ability to perceive your own emotions in the moment and understand your tendencies. So as a fact, most people think, even believe that they are highly self-aware. Statistically, the research showed that only 36% of people can accurately identify their emotions as they happen, right? And the rest of us are just reacting and calling it logic. Now let's move to the second one, the self-management, or in other words, what I do. This is the controls. This is what happens when you act, or in other words, when you do not act in some cases. So it is the ability to use your self-awareness to stay flexible and direct your behavior positively. It is a discipline to not hit like this reply all when you are angry. It is the ability to tolerate uncertainty while you figure out a solution rather just panicking. Okay. Now let's move to the social competence. we also have two dimensions. The first one is the social awareness. In other words, what others see, or this is your radar. This is where we usually fail in meetings. So social awareness is the ability to pick up on emotions in other people and understand what is really going on. And this is the harder truth. You cannot do this while you are planning your next argument. Basically, to be socially aware, you have to stop the monologue in your head and think like an anthropologist. So you have to watch behavior objectively without any judgment. And number four is the relationship management. This is your final result. This is what we actually do. This is the final output mainly. It is your ability to use the first three skills that we talked about, self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, to manage interactions between individuals successfully. So notice that this is the last skill. You cannot manage a relationship if you cannot read the room. Okay, we call this as again social awareness. And you cannot read the room if you are busy working over a crisis. And as we call this self-management. So unfortunately, most of project manager, they directly start at the relationship management. Okay, they try to control the stakeholders without doing the internal work. And by the way, we don't call this emotional intelligence. This is purely manipulation. And believe me, people can easily smell it. Now, we talked about the four dimensions. Now I'm gonna provide you with specific strategies that you guys can use in order to better, first of all, understand yourself, self-awareness, be able to manage yourself, self-management, to work on your social awareness, and of course, on relationship management. It's just for your information, the book, the Emotional Intelligence 2.0, provides 66 strategy for different dimensions. I'm going to focus on only three per dimension just because we don't have enough time, but it's very important. I would strongly recommend that you guys read the book because it's a very powerful book and will give you very important strategies, again, as I mentioned, not only to manage your projects, but also to manage your daily life and you manage your relationship at work, and within your own environment as well. So let's start with the first one, the first dimension. I'm going to give you strategies related first to self-awareness. Strategy number one. Let's get real. Most of you, as project managers, we have risk register on our project. We track every potential failure, the point in the scope, we track the budget, we track the schedule, but you are completely ignoring the single biggest point of failure in the entire project. It is you as a project manager. Okay? So we discussed the science. An electrical signals enter your spinal cord and hit your limbic system. We call this limbic system, we call it as well the emotional brain. And before it ever touches your rational brain. Okay? So that means when we are faced with a certain trigger, we feel and then we think. Okay, so in other words, or just give you an example, when stakeholders send you a vague requirement at 5 p.m. on a Friday, you don't think, you don't say, well, you know what? Let me just analyze this particular email. You feel angry, and this is where you are liable to send an email that damages a relationship forever. And this brings us to this particular strategy, the project trigger lock. I want you to start treating your emotions as data. And like any other project data, if you don't log it, you cannot manage it. And here is your assignment for the next days. First of all, try to become a scientist of yourself. Okay? I want you just to carry a notebook. Just use your the Notes app on your phone. Try to catch the physical signal. We often miss the emotion, but the body doesn't lie. So, for example, if you are facing a certain situation and your stomach tightens or your jaw clenches in a meeting or even on daily basis, this is an alert. So I need you to log the trigger. Write down exactly who and what pushed your button. I'm very confident that many of you have a specific person in your office or on your projects whose name alone appearing in your inbox raises your blood pressure, right? This person is a trigger. We call this a trigger. So if you don't write that down and study it, they will own you. Okay, so every time they walk in the room, they will hijack your brain. But if you log it, you can find the patterns. And the next time they start talking, instead of reacting with rage, you can just say to yourself, oh, okay, look at this particular individual doing that thing again. Right? So basically, you move from being a victim of the trigger to being an observer of it. And that is how you stop the surprise. And in project management, believe me, those of you who are project managers, they know this. Pattern recognition will definitely prevent failure. Let me move to the next strategy now. Okay. We tell ourselves a very big lie in this profession. The lie is, I follow the data decides. But data doesn't have anxiety. Data doesn't have a mortgage. Data doesn't worry about whether the VP likes them or not. You do, okay? And because of that, you are biased. So let's look at the sugar-coated status report. I'm sure that many of you have marked a project status in green, and when your guts knew it was a complete threat. Okay, and by the way, this is not a calculation error. This is pure fear. You were afraid of the conflict, afraid of the blame, afraid of the work required to fix it, etc. So you let an emotion override the data, and this is bias. Okay, this will lead us to strategy number 2. We call it the bias check. It's also called the emotion versus reason list. And here is how you survive the next crisis decision. Just get a piece of paper, draw a line in the middle. On the left column, write your emotion. Write down exactly what your gut is screaming. I am scared, for example, the sponsor will yell at me. I really like this vendor and I don't want to fire them, etc. On the right column, write the reason. Write down the cold, hard facts. For example, the budget is 20% over, they have missed deadlines, etc. So now I want you to think of a decision you are avoiding right now. So ask yourself, is my hesitation based on evidence or it is based on discomfort? Because it's very important to understand that your emotions create the trouble when you let them drive your reason. But and this is very important, your reason fails when you try to operate like a robot without any feeling. So this particular strategy called the bias check forces you to lay them both out on the table so you can see which one is driving your decision. Okay, and that is why this strategy, when you do this, you're gonna just split your emotions from your reason, and you will be able to take a better decisions. Let's move to the third strategy when it comes to self-awareness. Okay, I have a very hard truth for you. Okay, you are not who you think you are. We view ourselves through the lens tinted by our own intentions. We know we meant to be helpful. We know we meant to be efficient, but your team cannot see your intentions. They can only see your impact. They can only visualize your actions. And this gap between what you meant to do and what actually landed is where relationships die. Okay? Let me just give you a classic example from the research. Imagine a project manager who is driven, focused, and want their team to succeed. They constantly check in, ask for updates, and correct minor details because they want the project to be perfect. Their intent, I am mentoring my team, and I am trying to ensure a high quality of work. However, the impact, okay, or how did the team perceive your actions, right? The team will think, well, you know what, this is a micromanager, okay, who doesn't trust us at all. So basically, the intentions were good, but the impact was toxic. And because nobody told the project manager about this, the resentment will build up until the team stop caring. So just a quick exercise. Think of the last time a conversation went wrong, okay? And you found yourself saying, well, you know what, I was just only kidding, or I didn't mean it that way. That is the sound of the gap between intent and impact. So this will lead us to strategy number 3. Solicit perceived feedback. To fix this, you have to stop assuming you are transparent. Okay? You need to ask for the data, but you cannot ask a generic question like, who am I doing? Because people will lie to be polite. You have to ask a specific, slightly painful questions. So after a high stress meeting, ask a trusted peer, how did my communication come across just now? Okay, or what was the impact of my comment on the room? Believe me, it takes courage to ask that. You might hear that your directness came off as aggression. You might hear that your silence looked like a disinterest to some individuals. But remember, people trust what they see, not what you say. If you don't close the gap between your intent and your impact, you aren't leading, you are just hallucinating, my friend. So it's very important to understand and try to close the gap between these two. Okay, let's move to self-management now. Self-management. We have the 1-minute reset. So basically, when you are in a crisis meeting, let's say, when the vendor fails or a certain timeline is collapsing, your body goes into fight or flight mode. You start just taking short, shallow breaths. And let me just explain a little bit the biology behind this. Your brain demands 20% of your body's oxygen supply. Okay? When you breathe shallowly, your body prioritizes vital functions, like your heartbeat, for example, and starves for the complex functions, specifically the rational area of your brain that handles all the logic, the planning, the speech, etc. So when you are stressed and you start the shallow breathing, you are literally lowering your IQ in the moment. Okay? You are just trying to solve a $1 million problem with a brain that is suffocating, basically. Okay? And this is when it comes the strategy number 4, the 1-minute reset. Believe me, it's not meditation. I'm really telling you about a full system reboot of your brain. Okay? We need to manually force oxygen back into our brain so you can think again. So when you apply the 3 deep breaths, like 4 count inhale, 6 count exhale, you will feel a physical sensation, and that is your rational brain coming back online. So here's the challenge. The next time you read a hostile email or stakeholders attack your plan, do not respond. Do a 1-minute reset. If you reply while you are shallow breathing, you are letting your lizard brain, or basically we call as well your emotions, write the email. If you breathe first, you let your executive brain write it, right? And believe me, 1 minute of breathing will save you a week of apology meetings. Now, let me tell you the next strategy now. Okay, I'm pretty sure that you all know the moment when a stakeholder storms into your office, or they just easily unmute themselves on Zoom and start yelling, this project is a complete disaster, or you are ignoring the real requirement. Your brain is hardwired to do one particular thing, to defend. Okay, you want to pull up the email where they approve the scope, you want to argue the facts, you want to prove them wrong. Stop doing this. It's not going to work. If you defend, it's like you are validating the war. It's like you are admitting there is a battle, and you are just fired back. So let's focus on strategy number 5 now. Curious questioning. Okay, this is the antidote to the defensiveness, which is curiosity. Curiosity is mainly the antidote to defensiveness. So when you are under attack, I want you to become the most curious person in the room. Instead of just arguing, you say this exact phrase. That is a strong concern. Help me understand the specific part you are worried about. Okay. You guys see what just happened? We validated them, first of all. We acknowledged their emotions, which by saying strong concerns, without agreeing with the fact. And the second thing that we did is that we forced a reboot. So to answer your specific question, they have to switch from their emotional brain, okay, for example, to scream at you, and to their logical brain. They need to explain now. So what we did is that we shifted the battlefield. We moved the conversation from a personal attack on you to a shared problem on the table. If you can stay curious when everyone else is furious, you stop being the target and you start being the leader. And I have a very, very good story when it comes to this. I was managing once a project with 30 individuals on the call. Okay, it was a meeting It was an online meeting. And suddenly the client, I'm not sure what happened then, but the client started yelling at all of us. Okay, he didn't like basically she didn't like the work. She started yelling at our payroll admin. Back then I was managing a project in the implementation of software application, and it was a disaster. Like everything we say, that she directly rejected it. Okay, to the point that I said, well, you know what? Okay, in regards to this point, we're gonna stop now and we're gonna continue the meeting. And she reacted by saying, well, you know what? It's not you who decide. I am the client. I decide when we move forward. All right. So I used this particular strategy. I asked her, okay, I totally understand your actual concern, but what exactly do you want us to work on now? Okay. She stopped talking for a minute, okay, because she went into the logical brain. She was in a state of explaining what she needs to do next. And she told me, well, you know what? Okay, let's focus on this particular point. And that's how we continued the meeting. And it was a different game after that. So, but when you ask a question and when you become curious, people will shift from their emotional brain to their logical brain, and they have to explain themselves. Okay? To continue with this, proactive stress buffering. I want you to picture your Outlook or your Google Calendar right now. Okay? I'm pretty sure your day is solid block of colors. Most of you have meetings everywhere. There is no white space, or just you are busy. Okay, I call it a type of business. It's like busyness. Okay, and you hold this like a badge of honor. You think that I am productive because I have tons of meetings of my calendar. I'm telling you, it means you are completely emotionally incompetent. Okay, let me put it like this to you guys. So there is a phenomenon called emotional bleed. So you have, let's say you have a hostile negotiation with a vendor at 9 a.m. It goes completely bad. Okay, your cortisol spikes. You are angry. At 10 a.m. you have a one-on-one with a junior developer. Because you had zero transition time, you carry the aggression into the next room. So you snap at the developer, you kill the moral, not because they did anything wrong, just because you are leaking emotions from the last hour. And this is strategy number 6. The research is clear there. Your brain is not just a machine, your brain is a battery. If you do not schedule maintenance, your brain will schedule a breakdown for you, usually in the form of bad decision, in the form of outbursts, etc. So we need to treat a mental recharge exactly like we treat brushing our teeth. You do not just brush your teeth only when you have a cavity. You do it daily to prevent the rot. And you must treat your brain the same way. This is the technique for you. Stop booking meetings for 60 minutes. Book them for 45. You need a 15 minutes hard buffer after every high stake interaction. And during that buffer, don't check your emails or return calls. Just walk away from your computer. You're engaged in a physical movement to just release the hormones your brain needs to reset. Right? So as an exercise, I just want you to look at your calendar tomorrow. Find the most stressful meeting you have. Okay. Do you have a buffer immediately after it, or just meetings after meetings? If not, try to move something right now, okay? Because basically, if you do not build the dam, the flood is coming. So stop managing your time and start managing your energy. And that is why the proactive stress buffering is extremely important, so you can manage your emotions, right? Now, let's move to the next one, which is the social awareness. So we finished with the personal competence. Now we are moving to the social competence dimensions. Let me ask this particular question. What do you think the percentage is of a stakeholder's message, which is non-verbal? Okay. What percentage of a stakeholder's message is non-verbal? Just give me a number. Please don't use ChatGPT for this. One second. Okay. Oh, that's great. Yes, 90%. I can see some 25%, 45%, 20%. But yes, you guys are right. Research showed that up to 90% of emotional meaning is tone and body language. Okay, so are you listening to the music or just the words? This is very important to understand this as well. So let me focus on strategy number 7. We all know that from a project manager perspective, the first thing that we need to do when it comes to stakeholders is to categorize them based on their interest in the project, based on their attitude toward the project, and also based on their level of power. We call this the stakeholders queue. Okay, but now I want you to think of the most difficult, irrational stakeholders you are dealing with right now. The one who makes you want to quit. Okay, we all have one. Maybe they agree to a deadline on Tuesday and then they will ghost you on Wednesday. Maybe they claim budget is key, but then email you at midnight adding 5 new features to the scope. Your brain is telling you, well, you know what, this person is completely crazy, or this person is trying to sabotage me. But believe me, you are wrong. They aren't crazy. They are just motivated by something you cannot see yet. You are judging their actions, but you are ignoring their fears. And this will lead us to strategy number 7, the stakeholders and empathy map. By the way, this is a forensic tool. To solve the conflict, you have to stop acting like a project manager and you need to start acting like a profiler. You need to map out 4 things. First of all, what do they say? Okay, so for example, we need to cut our costs. Okay, what do? They keep approving expensive change requests. What do they think? And this is where you have to guess. Okay, maybe they think if the project fail, I might lose my bonus, right? And number 4, what do they feel? So we're talking about fear, anxiety, insecurity, etc. So we are talking about 4 elements. What do they say? What do they do? What do they think? And what do they feel? The goal is right here. It is the disconnect between what people say and what they do. So for example, let's say Calder says efficiency is number 1, but he is doing micromanagement. The hidden motivation isn't efficiency, it is the control. They are terrified of looking incompetent. If you keep arguing about efficiency, you will lose. If you address their need for control by over communicating status update, for example, you will win. Okay, so I just want you to take 10 seconds, visualize that difficult stakeholders that you currently have on your project or within your organization. Ask yourself, what are they afraid of losing? Is it the status, power? They are afraid to lose their job, etc. So once you answer that, you will stop playing their game and you will start managing their emotions. That is how you turn an enemy into an ally. To continue with the strategy, we have strategy number 8. I want to tell you about the most dangerous moment in a project. It is not when you miss a certain deadline. It's not when the budget gets cut. It is the moment a key stakeholders changes their pattern and you don't notice it. Okay. Every person you work with has a certain baseline. It's very similar to when we talk about the scope baseline, we talk about the schedule baseline, even when we talk about the cost baseline. we need the baseline. Why do we need baseline? So we can just measure against during the execution of our project, and so we can detect any deviation. And it's exactly the same when dealing with your stakeholders. Maybe like your sponsor is chatty and uses exclamation point in every email. Maybe your tech lead is grumpy and complains about everything. This is their normal. This is their baseline. Okay. And this will lead us to strategy number 8 is baseline change detection. So again, the danger isn't the behavior itself. The danger is in the deviation. So for example, if your chatty sponsor suddenly sends you a one-line email with no emoji, this is not efficiency. This is a warning shot. If the tech lead that we talked about that always complain about things is in a meeting and doesn't complain once, this isn't cooperation. This is disengagement. So basically, as a project manager, we are trained to look for risk in the risk assumptions, issues, dependency log that we all have on a daily basis. I'm telling you the risks are hiding in the deviations. So let's step for a couple of seconds now. I want you to think for your most critical stakeholder right now. What is their baseline? Are they fast? Are they slow? Are they loud? Are they quiet, etc.? If that person deviates from that pattern as of tomorrow, do not assume they are just having a bad day. Okay, take it as a project risk. Okay, so when the pattern breaks, you have to investigate. You have to ask the question we discussed in social awareness. For example, you seem quiet today. Is everything okay with the timeline? Is there anything that I can help you with? If you catch the shift early, you will fix a problem and solve a certain issue. However, if you miss the shift, you will get blindsided at your next high-stakes stakeholders meeting. And if you ignore the shift, okay, which is, again, the emotional data, you will assume everything is fine when it is not. So strategy number 9 now. When you are leading a steering committee or status update meeting, okay, where are your eyes? Okay, basically, are they on the screen? Are you just checking the bullet points? Are you buried in your notebook? Are you just writing down action items? If this is the case, believe me, my friend, you are missing the whole meeting. Okay? So basically, while you were reading that bullet point about the budget, the VP of marketing crossed their arms and leaned back. Okay, this is a no. While you were, for example, writing down a certain task, the tech leader rolled their eyes at the sponsor. This is a risk, for example. Okay, so, and this will lead us to strategy number 9. We call it the 360-degree observer. To survive the politics of a project, you have to stop acting like a presenter and start acting again like an anthropologist. Okay, so we discussed earlier that social awareness requires us to stop the monologue in our heads. Well, it also requires us to stop the activity in our heads. So don't take notes at meeting. Thank God we have AI now that's capable of taking notes. Okay, if your head is down, you are missing the critical clues. You miss the non-verbal currents that tells you what is really happening on your project. So here is your new job description in the meeting. Watch the leans. Who leans in when the budget is discussed? Who leans away? Leaning away is often a subconscious sign of discomfort or disagreement. Also try to spot the fake smile. Okay, look at the eyes. If there are no crinkles around the eyes, the smile is just politeness. It isn't an agreement. They didn't agree. Map the room. Who looks at whom before they answer a question? This will tell you who holds the real power within the project, regardless of what the organization chart says. So stop focusing 100% on your slide. The truth about your project isn't on the screen. It is really sitting in the chair. So observe the room and make sure you take notes of how people are acting. Now, let's move to the 4th dimension, which is the relationship management. This strategy, we call it adapt your influence currency. I have a question. If you walked into a grocery store in Tokyo, okay, and you tried to pay for your lunch with US dollar, what would happen? They would refuse to serve you. Now, is your money fake or definitely not? It's real money. Is it valueless? Of course not. Okay. It is simply the wrong currency for that specific environment. And this is strategy number 10. Adapt your influence currency. The reason you are struggling to get buy-in is that you are trying to pay everyone in project manager dollars. You are selling the schedule, you are selling the process, you are selling milestones. This is your currency. It has value for you, but to the people you need to influence, it is just simply monopoly money. Okay, so let's look at the exchange rate defined in this particular slide. So we have the CFO. If you go to the CFO talking about agile velocity, for example, or talking about team moral, you are speaking a foreign language for them. Their currency is return on investment, risk mitigation. This is their currency. This is how they understand things. You have to translate your project into their wallet. The same for the tech lead. Okay. Stop telling them about the deadline. They know the deadline. They are very aware about the deadline. Their currency is time and elegant code. This is what they care about. Okay. If you want them to speed up, you have to pay them by removing the administrative roadblocks so they can just really code. The same for the end user. They don't care if you are on budget. Okay? All they care about is the ease of use. So here is the EQ breakdown. This requires social awareness. It's very important. Specifically, the strategy that talks about step into their shoes. You have to understand what motivates people before you open your mouth. Okay? It also requires self-management. You have to suppress the urge to talk about your own problem, for example, the schedule. And you have to start talking about their problem. You have to talk about the outcome. So I want you to think of the last time a key stakeholder said no to you. Visualize that moment. Now ask yourself, what currency did I put on the table? Did you try to sell process to a visionary? Did you try to sell speed to a risk manager? So in other words, if you want to lead the table, stop forcing everyone to use your currency. Learn the exchange rate and pay them in something they actually value. To continue with strategy number 11, I want to talk about the worst role you play as a project manager. It's not being a schedule, it's not the budget tracker, it is the referee. So let me give you an example. Let's say marketing wants a new feature. Engineering are saying it is impossible. Okay, they are screaming at each other, and where are you? You are standing right in the middle, just taking the punches. You are trying to decide who is right. Believe me, stop doing this, because when you act as a referee, you validate the idea that the project is a zero-sum game, that one person to win, the other must lose, and you make yourself the enemy of the loser. So this is what strategy 11 tells us, shared problem solving. So basically, to lead the table, you have to physically and mentally change the geometry of the conflict. The slide says here, move from referee to facilitator. And here is what that actually looks like. So instead of standing between the people in the conflict, you pull both stakeholders into the same side of the table and you force them to look away from each other and look at the project value. So you're going to use a very specific EQ technique called the fix it statement. So you say, I can see we are stuck. Marketing needs X from sales, engineering needs Y for stability, for example. The shared problem is that we cannot deliver both by October. How do we solve the timeline risk together? So you guys see what just happened here? First of all, we validated both sides. Okay, we used social awareness to acknowledge their specific needs. We identified a common enemy. So the enemy here is not the other department. The enemy is the risk to the project value. And you start being the judge and you started being the facilitator. So in other words, just stop taking the hits, make the problem take the hits. And the last strategy for today, I want you just to give you the golden rule of project politics. If you remember nothing else from today, remember this. A steering committee is for getting formal and official approvals on a specific project element. It's not for discovery. So if you walk into a meeting with your executive sponsor and you present a delay, a budget overrun, for example, or a critical risk that they are hearing for the first time, you have already failed. Okay, you have just triggered the ambush factor. When a stakeholder hears bad news in public forum, their emotional brain, like the threat center we talked about, will fires instantly. They will just explode. Okay, they will feel stupid, and how do they react? They will just simply attack you. They question your competence so they can save their own faces. And this will lead us to strategy number 12, pre-approve stakeholders. You have to kill the surprise. Before any critical meeting, you must conduct the meeting before the meeting. So you go to your difficult stakeholders, you sit with them one-on-one, and you say, well, you know what? I'm going to report a 2 weeks delay in the steering committee on Thursday. I want you to hear it from me first so we can just discuss how to position it, okay? What we did achieve in this particular moment is that we removed the fear. They are no longer blindsided. You build the trust. You show them respect by bringing them into the inner circle, and you turned an accuser into an ally. So instead of just attacking you in the meeting, they would just nod sagely because they already know the answer. They are now an insight. So I want you all just to look at your calendar for your next high-stake presentation. Identify the one person in that room who is most likely to derail you. Okay? Your assignment is to take just a 15 minutes pre-approval chat with them at least 24 hours before the meeting. So it's very important not to let the big meeting be the first time they hear the truth. If you want to lead the table, you have to set the table first. This is very important to understand. Now, we are going to finish by mapping everything we just learned into the reality of our daily job. So we all know the standard life cycle: initiation, planning, execution, closing. We are calling it now in the 8th edition of the PM bot, we are calling it the focus areas. So if you treat these as just process step, you are a bureaucrat. If you treat them as an emotional stages, you will be seen as a leader. In the initiation phase, this is where the textbook is telling us to develop our project charter. EQ says this is your social awareness. Your job here isn't just to document the what, it is to find the why behind the what. So you need to read the room. Is this a vanity project for a VP? Is it a survival strategy for the company? If you miss the emotional driver here, you are building a house on sand. Second phase is planning. Okay, we all know that during planning, we need to allocate resources, we have to develop our schedule, we have to do scheduling, etc. All these elements related to the technicality of project management. However, from an EQ perspective, this is relationship management. You are negotiating for resources that don't want to work for you. Okay, you are asking functional managers to give you their best people. You cannot do this with a Gantt chart. You do this with influence currency. You have to sell the vision so you can get the buy-in from these particular individuals. As for the execution, this is the fog of war. For example, the vendor goes bankrupt, the scope, you have tons of scope creeps. EQ said this is self-management. This is where the teams will look at you. If you panic, they will panic. If you are frustrated, they check out. So your primary job in execution is not to fix an issue. You have to regulate your own nervous system so you can keep the team calm enough to solve the problem. This is where, for example, you use the 1-minute reset. And as for the closing, and by the way, most project managers are terrible at this. You archive the key documents, and all you want to do is just to move to the next project. At this particular level, EQ says this is a relation management. Again, you must deliver emotional closure. You have to celebrate the struggle. And most importantly, you have to ensure adoption. And by the way, adoption is an emotion. It is the users feeling comfortable with the new tool. If you deliver the code, but they hate the change, you have failed. So in other words, let the process manages the work. Your job as a project manager is to manage the feelings and the emotions. And I will end with this one. I really want to look at this particular sentence. If you really take one screenshot today, make it this one, okay? Basically, we spend our entire career chasing the first half of this sentence. We get the degrees, we get the PMP certification, we learn Agile, Waterfall, Scrum, etc. That is just the price of admission. Your technical skills are what got you hired. They are what got you a seat to the meeting, but they are not what keeps you there. Okay, so the data from the book, the Emotional Intelligence 2.0, shows that IQ gets you the job, but EQ accounts for 58% of your performance once you are in it. It is the single biggest predictor of whether you become a top performer or just another administrator updating a certain schedule. So you can be the smartest person in the room. You can have the perfect Gantt chart, a perfect schedule, etc. But if you cannot read the room, if you cannot manage your own panic during a crisis, and if you cannot navigate the ego of a difficult stakeholder, you are not leading. You are just documenting a disaster. Okay. The table is crowded with people who have technical skills. The person who leads the table is the one who understands the people. So go back to your teams, stop hiding behind your spreadsheets, start managing the emotions. That is how you deliver. Okay, so I finished this particular presentation. I'm gonna just hand it over to Muhammad now. He's gonna just have a few words to tell you guys, and we're gonna take the questions after this, after Muhammad.
Thank you so much.
Muhammad, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Dima, you were saying something.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to thank Dr. Khalil for an incredibly insightful session, for beautifully bridging project management theory with real-world practicality, and for highlighting how emotional intelligence truly drives project success beyond technical tools. We really appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you, Dr. Khalil, and
You're
we'd like
welcome.
to hand over to Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you so much, Dima. And thank you so much, Dr. Khalil, for such an insightful session. Really appreciate your contribution to Abu Dhabi University. I'm Muhammad Father Hussein from the admissions and the marketing department of Abu Dhabi University. I hope the screen is visible to you all.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So basically, I'm just gonna quickly do a 2-3 minutes. I will take 2-3 minutes, and then we jump onto the Q&A session with Dr. Khalil. I just wanted to talk about the university, the background, and what we do, and what are we expertise in. So basically, a brief about Abu Dhabi University, specifically the Dubai campus. At the moment, I know that many of you guys are aware about the fact that we have Abu Dhabi campus in Abu Dhabi City and Ain campus, but we also have a beautiful Dubai campus, which is situated in Dubai Knowledge Park, As-Sufuh. It's also called as the Dubai Internet City or the Dubai Media City. This is our beautiful Dubai campus. And with regards to Times Higher Education ranking, some of the rankings I would like to discuss with you all, that we are amongst the top 250 worldwide ranking, and we recently rise to the 7th position in the Arab region and 3rd in the UAE. When it comes to the QS ranking, we are in the globally top 391, and in UAE we are in the top 5. So I will just quickly take you to the international accreditations that we have. I would like to prevalently focus more on the engineering college. We are highly accredited. One of the highest accreditations that we have is the ABET accreditations, of course, for the engineering college, and the EQUIS and ASESB for the business. Now, the programs are very unique, very industrial specific. I can tell you that a synonym that we call Dubai campus as a bridging between the academics and the industry. So we have the College of Engineering with 3 major postgraduate programs in engineering management, project management, and artificial intelligence, recently added to the to the college. College of Business, of course, we have the MBA with different concentrations, and the DBA. College of Arts and Education and Social Sciences, specifically for the teachers and educators. We do have the programs, which is Professional Diploma in Teaching, Master of Education in Education Leadership, and Special Education. And the College of Law, specifically, it's in Arabic. So all the programs that we have in College of Law are in Arabic: Masters of Public Law, Private Law, and the PhD in Law. So some of the discounts, benefits, or scholarships that the students can avail exclusively at Dubai campus is, of course, the Saad, Faza, Mat Watan, Al Saada, as well as any student enrolling at Dubai campus can also receive 20% scholarship. Apart from that, we do have the merit scholarship, which is of course for students who have 3.5 GPA and above, and can avail 25%. Of course, terms and conditions apply. And I would like to also tell you that if anybody of you, whoever is the attendees, or any member of your family, or anyone who is willing to or wishing to join Abu Dhabi University or the Dubai campus specifically, here's my email ID and my phone number as well, so you can get in touch with us. And apart from that, I would also put the email address on the chats. If anybody has any inquiries, they can get in touch with me. Over to you, Dr. Khalil. Thank you so much. Let's go to the Q&A session.
Thank you, Muhammad. Because of
Is
any
there
question,
anyone,
any comments?
any questions? Please raise your hand. Dr. Raid is also here. He's one of our students actually in College of Education. Does anybody has any questions, or should we just wrap up the session? Okay, I think, Doctor, there's no questions.
Yeah,
and
so thank you all for your time. I really appreciate your presence. And again, I think Muhammad as well can share my my email address or my contact information. If you have any question, if you need anything, please let me know. So thank you all and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Muhammad. Bye-bye.